Welcome to Gab and Jam, episode 335.
Yeah.
Our topic today is copying, inspiration / plagiarism. Where is the boundary? And this topic was inspired by Artjuice. And I'll put their link below because I think it's worth listening to the entire conversation. But I just wanted to highlight some things that we discussed when we were listening to the episode. Well, first, let's just put it out there that even for this podcast, I get inspired by other people's ideas. But I think what might make it different, again, so going to the topic, is it ever okay to copy? I'm copying the idea because it sparks something in me, but then we're adding to it with our own perspective.
Right.
And we're pointing you back to the original content. I'm not telling you I came up with this on my own. So I'm just going to put that out there because that's probably the first thing somebody would say, before I even start the points, is that you always refer to other people's, and that's true because we get inspired by other people's work.
That's right.
But then we have our own thoughts on it. So again, ours is more of a commentary and sharing the takeaways from theirs, but also a commentary on how we view what they're talking about.
Right.
All right, but on to the discussion. So one of the things they point, let me skip on down. Again, if you want to see the entire the entire recap of the conversation as we heard it, check out the blog post. I'll leave the link below. But I'm just going to highlight, I think, 6 things that they talked about that seem relevant. But there are others that are going to be in the blog post. Okay, so the first thing is it okay for a person to copy, especially if they're a person in your group and or who is in your, this person, they copy something from a person's workshop and they start using their membership template and their website design, and and even their Canva graphics, they didn't try to recreate them. They just took a screenshot and put it up as their own. So is that okay? And she was saying, one of the podcasters was saying that maybe they thought it was okay because they're a part of the group. They paid membership fee and they're like, well, maybe the resources are up for grabs too. And she just was saying that it was so eerily close to her work that it just made her uncomfortable, and she tried to reach out to the person and never got a response back. So that's what made her feel like, okay, she knows she's copying and that's not a cool thing. That they had kind of not a malicious intent, but just not really, they're not bearing witness to the art or anything. They're just taking it, for their own means.
Right.
And so she was saying that didn't feel good. And the fact that the person would not respond really made it feel like they knew they were doing the wrong thing. All right. So the next point is, where do you draw the line? Okay, there's being inspired by someone, whether in business or art, or when you're directly lifting, how would you make that distinction? And so again, I would say if they're doing things like doing screenshots and not actually painting the work, or she gave an example of somebody taking someone's paintings and making prints of them.
I wouldn't go for that.
Right. That is just completely illegal. And I mean, they make that point and they're like, well, if you're found out, that people know that they're doing the wrong thing. If they take it down and delete their site and delete their socials, then they know for sure they're doing the wrong things. Right. Whereas if you use it, because the next point is, if you're copying because you're learning, like you're new to whatever it is, songwriting or painting or whatever it is, if you're copying to learn, that's okay. But their question was, should you sell it? And so we talked about this because they say you shouldn't probably sell it. But what did you say? If somebody copies somebody's style and they're proud of it and they're a new painter or they're a new songwriter, should they sell it?
I think they should sell it.
Why?
Because it's completely different than what they actually put it forward.
Okay, so again, that they actually are putting some of themselves in it as they're trying to copy it, and that was one of the points I think later on is that it's never going to be exactly the same. And actually you get your style from trying to copy, but part of you is going to be in there if you are actually trying to recreate. And so, so that was one of the points. And also as a part of that, she said, you'll know that they're just being genuine if 6 months from now they have veered slightly into something else, because they're finding something, they're finding their way through whatever the process is. And they're really just using you as inspiration, as a jumping off point. And I thought that was a good point. All right. So the next point is, if somebody took a template and used it, is that copying? But again, I would think if it's a template, it's probably something they purchased, because usually you don't get a template for free. So I'm just like with the Canva stuff, that there's some you can use and make it your own. And it's once you've paid your fee for Canva or whatever.
Right.
And then there are others that you cannot use unless, unless you pay the fee. So let's see. Let's get down to the next point. The next point is, it was, again, copy other people to learn, and where you make mistakes, that becomes your style. And I think you've always kind of said that people think they're copying the Beatles or Prince, but actually if they're doing it on their own, that they're going to add some of their own personality, their own perspective, their own, and that becomes the style. So we just said that. And she says on one of the quotes, I think it's inevitable, isn't it? I think those situations that you've spoken about is where you're consciously looking to learn, to absorb, to be observant, to pay attention, to notice what is interesting to you or what you like or what you're responding to. That's the process of making art. And so that is the point again. If you're a beginner, you're probably going to be copying. Kind of when you first were learning the bass, you listen to songs on the radio and you start learning how to play them. And then a lot of that sometimes ends up influencing the original songs that you write. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's not, you're not trying to do that song.
No. It's not going to be the same exact song.
Right. No.
Yes,
No.
It may sound similar to that sound.
Yes.
But no, it's not the same word.
No, it's not. All right, and a couple more. I'm gonna have to. Okay. So the next point is, they say they don't think that it's just beginners that copy. And then she was saying, as your work progresses, you're going to continue to look outward, kind of what we said, and be inspired by other people's work. And of course, it will find its way, some of that inspiration, into the work that you create. And finally, another point they made is anything ever completely original? That any artist, even the most avant-garde out there, artists, and I'm saying that even we just were listening to George Clinton interview, and he was even talking about, as out there as Parliament Funkadelic was, he was even giving homage to the people that inspired him. The same thing with Bootsy, that they didn't just pop up, out of the place. And I think Bootsy, what was interesting is it was country music that was part of the inspiration. Who would have thunk it? But again, when you listen, you kind of can hear elements of country in what they do. But again, it's taking that inspiration and then weaving yourself in it, or even the hybrid. That's what my mom used to always say about Prince. She was like, like he's not so much original, but because he put so many different elements together that you could identify, but all together, people looked at it as fresh, as, original, as genius. And so he stands out there. Back to the genre unto himself. We have a episode on that. So I'll put the link below in case you're curious. Prince and there are, some others who, when you hear their music, it's like, I don't know exactly what genre it is, but I know it's Prince. So, and then finally, art. If you're looking at what is culturally relevant, you're probably going to be copying to a certain extent, because they make the point that if you're in the 60s, there was a certain look and feel to art in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing for the 70s, 2000s, whatever it is. So in some way you're copying. You're looking around and saying, ooh, I think, you know, disco, whatever. If you're injecting that into what you do, then that's a part, you're incorporating it. So that's a form of copying. It's not, again, I don't think it's a bad form of copying. Go back to
right. Yeah.
But you're probably not going to put something out that's completely antithetical to what other people are putting out during that time period. Probably not.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So it ends up being a form of a copy. And then finally, this is the last point. I already said that. Okay, here's the last point. However, if you're one of those people on YouTube teaching people how to write a song like the one you wrote, don't be surprised if people copy, because you're teaching them how to do it. So when you start hearing their music and you're like, well, that sounds like something I wrote. Well, of course, but you have actively said, I'm going to teach you the elements to do this.
Right.
And so, of course, they're probably going to make it, and they're probably going to try to sell it, because that would be the natural inclination. They're proud of it. You know, they're inspired, and yeah. So, what do you think? When is it okay to copy creatively? Where is the line? And can you identify any way that you have perhaps done some of the things that we just talked about? Even if it is in hindsight, you look back and you're like, oh, you know, I mean, that's the way it is for me, is sometimes I realize we'll be writing a song and I realize, oh, this kind of sounds like so-and-so, but it's after we've already written a song. It's not like I'm actively looking
right
to rip them off or to take their part. Right. Yeah. All right. What else is going on around here? Obtainium Flow. Obtainium Flow. Streaming everywhere.
Yes.
So make sure you check that out. The video for Daylight, I swear the video for Daylight is coming. We're also working on some live music. So in the weeks and months to come, we may have some live music that is uploaded exclusively to our Patreon.
Wow.
So that people who are interested in hearing what we can do live can go there and support us and then have access to it. And of course, we also have t-shirts. I'll put the link below where you can get your own Obtainium Flow t-shirt. If you dig the vibe and you want to be a part of the tribe, be sure to
subscribe.
We're wishing you love, peace, and cheese. All right, bye-bye.